how is your partnership managed?
Well, most partnerships and collaborations, there's like a lead group or committee or board that kind of drives policy and direction and creates the structure for the partnership. Um, and then there are the worker bees, the staffs, or the workers that
Mhm.
go then and implement those plans that have been put in place. And so there's, I guess, kind of a distinction between leadership that's developing maybe the ideas, creating the partnership, and then again, there's those that are doing the implementation, the working, the documenting of the process and what you're going through for success.
All right. And then please describe a few of your organization's challenges during its partnerships and how it overcame them.
Well, there's always challenges with getting everyone on the same page. And so the only way really to do that is to talk about the challenges, talk about and make sure that you're getting buy-in and you're getting support from each one of the partners and making sure that an organized structure is put in place. So how are you going to meet? How are you going to talk? How are you going to talk about challenges? How are you going to talk about changes? How are you going to talk about flexibility? And so having an approved and agreed to process is what I found to be the most successful. So, um, for example, a couple of years ago, we put a program in place that was looking at working with the formerly incarcerated population. And as we talked about addressing community violence issues, we realized it was important to work with the population that's either most likely to be an offender or be offended against. And bringing those to the table was pretty controversial. And
Mhm.
so, and then after we started doing the work, it became even more controversial because people felt, people that were committing crime or had a history of committing crime shouldn't be at the table with law enforcement or with decision makers. And the way we got around it and had success with the program was just to, again, keep meeting, keep working through the challenges, keep working through the issues, know that there's going to be successes as well as challenges, or maybe in some places failures. So when you're working with a formerly incarcerated population and someone reoffends that you're working with, you get people that want to say, oh, we can't work with that population, or they shouldn't be at the table with us, and we should just arrest them all, and things of that nature that are just, ridiculous in thought. You have to keep working through the challenges. So that work was really important for our community to work with the formerly incarcerated to have them be included in the solutions. And not very many communities are able to get to that point
Yeah,
where everybody's a true partner in the project or the initiative.
that's really amazing. I love that you guys did that.
Yeah.
All right. The third question, do you have a communication plan?
Well, communication is changing, you know, very rapidly with social media, with how people receive information, what populations of folks. So if you're talking to a younger audience, they receive information one way. If you're working with an older population or more mature population that's not as into social media, that's not as into, those forms of communication, um, it can be challenging. So you have to have ongoing, evolving communication strategies and methods. I just finished a meeting where we were talking about some events that we're doing and we're putting together, and we're changing some rules and some policy, and we were going through, well, how do we communicate this, and it has to be multi-pronged. So what I mean by that is you have to do social media, you have to look at Facebook and Instagram and things of that nature to communicate, along as well as radio advertisement or television or direct communication. You have to change your signage. So communication has to be in multiple forms to be able to reach the audiences that you're trying to reach. My mom, for example, is not on email. She's an 83-year-old woman, right? So she's not on computer, she's not on email. And I'll often talk with an organization or someone that says, oh, we sent out email invites and we sent all the information through email and we put a QR code together for someone to respond to. And that's just not an effective way to reach my mom,
Yeah.
right? I'll just give that as an example.
That's smart. I like that. I didn't even think about the different demographics, but it obviously does play a role. For the last question for this theme, how do you communicate with partners? Does your organization use email, newsletters, websites, Zoom calls like this one, or other tools?
Yeah, so it has to be all of the above. And effective communication is not how you receive information, but it's how the person you're trying to reach receives information. And you just have to look at and be very different than before. So, for example, again, we talked about social media, but Black communities, for example, get more information through radio, advertising, and communication than a newspaper. So if you're only putting information and communication in a newspaper, that very few people read newspapers, the hard paper newspapers anymore, right? Now, most people get their news and their information through the internet and through phones and things of that nature. So communication is key, and you have to approach it from multiple perspectives and approaches.